screen share and everything like that will work. So I just have a few slides here to run through. So as Catherine said, my name's Ashley and I work in the HR department here in Norbrook. So my area, I suppose, of expertise, if you like, would be the quality recruitment. So I would deal with all the recruitment in our quality function. So I have a few slides just to show you, because I know sometimes within Norbrook we can use our own language, which can be a little bit confusing to outside people. So when we talk about quality, they are, whether that be quality control, quality assurance, etc. So the main majority of our employees, and especially graduates, would go into those roles. So I've sort of focused it around that today, but happy to answer then any questions that you may have. So I'm just going to close down emails and stuff like that here. I don't want anything popping up on the screen. Maybe that shouldn't be. So as I say, bear with me and I will just start this here. So hopefully you can see that we screen okay.
Perfect, Aisling, perfect.
Listen, I'm not going to keep you overly long. As I can enjoy the sound of my own voice a little bit too much, so I'm trying to just keep it a little bit generic today, but focused around, as I say, the quality and also the engineering side, because that will be a big focus for us as well. So in terms of Norbrook, so as Catherine said, we are neighbours, if you like. So we're based in Newry, County Down. So we're one of the largest privately owned veterinary pharmaceutical companies in the world. So it's only veterinary products that we focus on. So our vision, I suppose, as a company is to be a world-class global provider to enhance the health of farm and companion animals. So with that, then we have had a significant investment, over the past number of years into that. So there's a little detail on that later as well. So, what that then means that we have, sort of leading equipment, so laboratories and stuff like that. So the picture there on the bottom is just to show you one of our sites. So that would be our Armagh Road site. So we have 3 manufacturing sites in Newry, 1 in Monaghan and 1 in Kenya. So the majority of our employees would be based here in Newry. So just to touch on the Monaghan piece, as I know there may be people sort of from that area. So we are currently looking at expanding on our Monaghan site. So we have about 50 staff approximately down there. So we have 2 production suites down there. We do have a lab down there as well. It's currently not staffed because we haven't, I suppose, had to. So our laboratory was added on as an expansion a number of years ago, just as a Brexit plan and strategy. So I said majority of our employees will be based here in Newry, and about 1,600 staff then across the world as well. So I'm just going to pop in this little video because I didn't want you just hearing my voice the whole time. So I say hopefully then this will just give you a little bit.
Norbrook Laboratories started in 1969. It was founded by Edward Haughey. Edward Haughey later became the Lord Ballyedmond. Norbrook Laboratories is a veterinary pharmaceutical company. Initially, Norbrook focused on the redistribution or reselling of other companies' products.
Yes.
You might just share your screen with the video as well. We're just seeing your thanks.
Thank you for that. I say Teams isn't my strongest point, so if I stop.
For 50 years in history,
I knew this would happen.
No problem. Just back over to where your YouTube or whatever your slide is, and share that screen.
Share, yeah. Thank you. Our IT team did warn me about this morning, but I obviously didn't listen to them. Thought I knew it all. So I'll just maybe stop it.
Perfect. Sorry, Aisling.
Yes.
When you're sharing there, just to say include computer sound.
Catherine, you're keeping me right here. Thanks very much for this. Hold on, I stop. You can tell it's not the IT team that I work in. Right, 3rd time lucky.
On the redistribution or reselling of other companies' products. Over our 50 years in history, we've developed our own product portfolio. Today, that portfolio is sold in 220 different countries, and our global sales are approaching £250 million. 80% of our sales historically have been in the large animal sector. and 20% of our sales currently are in companion animals. Strategically, we want to continue to support both sectors, but we have put a lot of focus on growing the companion animal sector specifically. In Newry, we have 3 facilities, one focused on penicillin products, one focused on non-penicillin, and where I'm standing right now in Carnbane, we have our tableting manufacturing capability and our final packaging. In Monaghan, we manufacture spot-ons for companion animals, and in East Africa, we have a significant facility in Nairobi where we support the African business. Over our history, Norbrook has been very honoured to be recognised by our customers, which is critically important, and we've also been recognised for growing our international domestic business with several Queen's Awards. Norbrook is a privately held company. We're owned by the Ballyedmond Haughey family. In my time with the company, they've supported significant investments in the organisation. Since 2016, we've been investing significantly in the business. Between 2016 and 2023, we will spend in excess of £100 million in capex in our overall infrastructure. That investment is going into many aspects of the business. We're improving our laboratory infrastructure. We've built new labs right across the business. Most of our manufacturing suites are being upgraded, or we're building new suites. On the back of that investment, we feel strong about the company's future and are quite ambitious.
I'll just stop sharing on this and then back into.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, all okay so far?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So in terms of what we do then, so we would have, I suppose, 5 main functions within the company, and as I say, scientific and quality can sometimes get a little bit confused. So what we mean by our scientific function is all of our research and development. So all of the work that goes in terms of getting the product from concept, so right through from idea to formulations to all of our clinical trials scaled up through manufacture, all of the work that goes on behind the scenes, if you like. So our scientific function then would have, let's say, the likes of your pharmaceutical development analysts, formulations, your clinical research, and all then the support that goes with that. So regulatory affairs, everything like that, all of the new product development piece. And then we would have our supply chain function, which would include our procurement, demand planning and scheduling, customer services in a warehouse and distribution. Our central functions then would include finance, IT and HR. I purposely haven't included sales and marketing because that is taken care of by our colleagues in England. So we would also have an office in England. We don't have a manufacturing site, which is why this would be the first time you've heard of it. But that would be sort of taken care of by our sales and marketing guys over there. So then our quality, which may be more, I suppose, suitable for you guys on today. So that would include of our QC, so our quality control, so our raw materials and our finished goods labs, our stability labs, our validations, our quality assurance, our microbiology. So our microbiology is split then QC micro and then environmental micro. And then operations, we would have our engineering, manufacturing, packaging, technical services team, and also maintenance. So for the purposes then of today, I think, you know, the majority of our past graduates have come from the science sort of fields within DkIT. So maybe just touch on that in a little bit more detail. So the types of roles that we would have mostly it would be chemistry and biology based. So that's why I've sort of given a little breakdown there of what they actually mean. And you know, if at any stage people are, you know, they see a job title online and they may not actually know what is involved, you know, we're more than happy to, you know, have a chat around that to explain it to anybody in a little bit more detail. So we would have the likes of our analytical chemist, which would be our main route into the company for science graduates. The reason being is it's our biggest area. So we would have 4 QC labs, which would have our analytical chemists working there. So as our raw materials on the Armagh Road would have, say, 50, finished goods probably around 40, and then the same then on our station work site. So we have 2 raw materials and 2 finished product labs. The reason for that is, as Liam had mentioned in the video, we have 1 penicillin site, and 1 non-penicillin site. So obviously we have to keep, you know, those products separate. So that's why we would have 4. So there's no labs actually where I'm based, which is in the Carnbane site. So I say these are on the Armagh Road and Station Work site. But the one thing about Norbrook is all of our sites are literally, you know, within, well, I would say walking distance if you were a little bit more athletic than myself, but you know, certainly like a 2-minute drive. You know, we're all within like a half-mile radius of each other. So the other roles that we would have would be validation analyst. So that would be either our process and cleaning validation, or then the, I suppose, more typical validation of our sterilisation equipment, and also then our facility side, which would be like all of the, you know, manufacturing vessels and things like that. So they would be involved with that. We would then, as I have our pharmaceutical development analyst, so that could, you know, that's all of your new product research, and so that's what they would be involved with. And I say all of those roles that I've mentioned so far are chemistry based. They don't need to have a chemistry degree, but as I say, if you have any sort of general science degree, then those roles would be as a good option there. And we would have all entry level, also meant to say. So as I say, then we have our microbiology roles, although I do believe from having a look through the courses that it would be mainly on the chemistry side, you know, that DkIT would offer. So I'll not go into an awful lot of detail on them. So I say we have our microbiologists, we have our environmental micro, which are concerned with the sterile areas, and then I say the microbiology technician, which again is biology based. So life as an analyst in Norbrook then, so it would depend on the laboratory that you're based in, so whether that be raw materials or finished products, as I say. So our raw materials team are testing all of our APIs, all materials, any single product that goes into, or sorry, any single starting material that goes into our product has to be tested, so that we can use it basically in our manufacture. So then on the other side, you would have your finished products where they are testing, you know, taking a sample of the batch that has been produced. So as it's slightly different in terms of the test methods that they would do. You know, your finished products team might do a lot of dissolution testing, for example, which your raw materials team might not. So both would use HPLC, and HPLC would be our sort of bread and butter. So I know that within a lot of interviews that we've done probably over the last 12 months, the DkIT students always talk about where they've used HPLC to determine the caffeine in an anodine tablet, I think it is. So we're always expecting to hear that answer. So I say HPLC would be the main piece of analysis that we would use. Now, there would be full training and everything like that provided. So we are not by any means saying that we expect graduates to be coming in on day one ready to walk over and use a HPLC machine. One, we wouldn't have it because we need to have everything. There's so much training because we're so regulated, you know, within Norbrook, everything needs to be signed off. And two, we appreciate, especially over the last couple of years, that, you know, people may not have had as much lab exposure, you know, maybe through social distancing or COVID and things like that. So I say full training will be provided on every single test that you would be performing. So I'd say HPLC, GC, your basic things are then like pH testing, Carl Fisher titrations for water content, dissolution, your UV vis, your NIR, FTIR, then your wet chemistry as well. So I have also then, now let me stop this again. Sorry that I'm jumping, but as I said, I don't want it to just be all hearing from me. If there are more, so I'm going to just play a little video here from Chelsea. So I say Chelsea, oh, I want to make sure that I've just included the sound on that. So Chelsea is one of our senior analysts within our finished goods. So Chelsea joined us actually as an apprentice. So some of the things that she may say may not be overly relevant, but I just want to show you, you know, a little flavour of what a day.
We're just not hearing that, Aisling. If you want to try it again.
Not working, no. Did include.
Have you sharing your screen?
You can't see it either, no?
No.
You see now?
Can see your screen. And maybe make it larger there.
Finished products to ensure they meet the predetermined specifications. Perfect. So work over a team of 8 analysts, ensuring that we meet our specification deadlines. Most mornings I'll spend my day looking through HPLC runs and data analysis from the previous day, just identifying if there's any out of spec or out of trend results that we need to investigate. Moving on from that, it's just ensuring that our analysts are able to upkeep their schedule to meet the batch release deadlines. Going on to OOS investigation meetings and talking with customer services to ensure the required batches are out. So I started in Norbrook straight out of A-levels as an apprentice. So the way that it works is the apprenticeship starts with a foundation degree ran through SRC in conjunction with University of Ulster. After the first 2 years, then you move to University of Ulster campus and complete the final 2 years of your bachelor's degree, and that was in pharmaceutical science. After those 4 years, I had 4 years industry experience in Norbrook throughout 3 different labs and a bachelor's degree. So I started in 2017 as an apprentice within the MDV department. So this covered the full aspects of my GMP and HPLC training. So within the first year, I had fully undergone all HPLC training, including troubleshooting and wet chem. So moving on from there, I joined process validations, and again my training continued. This is in the second year of my degree, so we had a dissertation project and that was brought through with Norbrook. So HR in conjunction with the university helped me alongside that. Moving on from that, I was able to get a senior analyst role. So we had a lot of experience doing OOS and out of trend investigations, which really helped me in that side of things whenever I came for applying for the senior job. So it wasn't a conventional route through university and then into the degree and then joining Norbrook, but Norbrook allowed me to get my degree qualification and 4 years experience all in one. So there are plenty of opportunities for progression in Norbrook, whether that be within certain departments, so moving within the QC department, or as I've done, different departments, moving from R&D to PV, QC. Some of the skills you need to work in my department in Norbrook would be attention to detail. So every day we test finished products through methods, so every single detail matters. Also the workplace and what we do is constantly changing, so adaptability would be a big one for us. And just being able to work in a team. We have such a team environment, and being able to come in every day and work alongside others is a big help. One of the great things about Norbrook is that you are constantly being trained, so no matter what level you're at when you come in, you have basic training, but the training doesn't stop there. So I've been here 5 years now, and every so often I'll be on training courses and refresher training. So the levels of progression that way is great when compared to other companies.
And so Chelsea's actually now acting as our QC manager within the department as well. So she's recently been promoted, which is great. So obviously at the time of filming, we didn't know that. So just going to touch then on the engineer, and I'm not sure if it is applicable or not for anybody on the call, but engineering would also be a big aspect for us in terms of the graduate recruitment. So types of roles that we would have there within engineering would be like your electronics engineer, mechanical project engineer, controls engineer, utilities engineer, and then maintenance technician. So we would have, as I say, our 3 sites here within Newry, our site down in Monaghan, that would all be looked after then, I suppose, by the engineering team then as well. So it's not my area of expertise, which is why I'm sort of skimming over this quite lightly. But as I say, it's we are currently going through a lot of recruitment for that. So there are constantly roles being advertised for that as well, because it's, especially with the amount of investment within our facilities over the last couple of years and more projects ongoing, that is sort of why we would need to constantly look for more talent to join those teams. So I did have a video to play there, but I think I'll maybe just of time, but those videos are on our website as well, if that was the case. So I suppose to wrap up then, so why Norbrook? So we are, as I say, located in Newry, so approximately 20 minutes from DkIT. All 3 sites are conveniently located just off the M1 or N1 if you prefer. So I say in terms of travelling to Newry, it is quite accessible. So you can see the Norbrook signs on the M1, so you may have noticed that, or if you have it on the way up to Belfast. So if you're traveling up that way now, you may see the signs now that I've pointed it out to you. So we have a lot of progression opportunities. So as I said there, so Chelsea, for example, I joined Norbrook 3 years ago. When I was here, Chelsea was an apprentice, and now she's acting QC manager. You know, so that is just one example, I suppose, of the opportunities that there are, you know, internally. So I say that may be I suppose a quite fast-tracked, you know, progression in terms of that. So within QC itself, then we have a framework, a skills progression framework. So you would join us as a level 0 analyst, and you can work your way right up then through the levels. So it goes from 0 right up to 5. So after about sort of 6 to 9 months, you could you become a level 1 analyst, and that is basically where, you know, you are proving that you are competent in certain test methods, in running certain pieces of analysis, in you're working maybe with the more difficult products. So I say with each level, then there is a salary increase as well. So I say you can go from 0 right up to 5. Anything from level 3 and above would be classed sort of as a senior analyst as well. So that's just within the QC department, or sorry, within all of our science-based departments. There's also the opportunities for progression outside of the department themselves. Another recent example, you know, there was a senior analyst, so started as an analyst just out of university, came to us, done a couple of years as an analyst role, moved up to a senior role, and now she is a QA manager, has just recently moved into that role. So some people move into QA, some people move into the R&D side, which would be, say, like your pharmaceutical development, where they're doing different types of things. So there's plenty there. So I say we've over 50 departments in Norbrook, so there's always some sort of movement, which is great. We would have a lot of employee benefits then as well. We have our supportive culture, our training and development, and as I say, a significant investment in recent years. So I just probably want to, I suppose, wrap up with one final point, and it was based around, so this was a little video here. I'm not sure if it may play, but I say I'm conscious, I don't want to keep playing too many videos for you, but there's a video there on our website of Amanda Dowdle. So Amanda would be our R&D QA manager. So Amanda was with us for a number of years, left recently, and actually came back then as well. So she went to another pharmaceutical company in the local area. So she also came back to us. So there's a video there of her talking on our website around the whole, you know, living in the south, working in the north, that kind of thing, because that can be, I know, a concern for some students, you know, if they are you know, perhaps living in the Dundalk area or the surrounding areas, but travelling up to Newry then for work. So there's a little video there where she's talking around that. You know, she had the same sort of concerns. So as I said, I don't want to keep these overly long. So if you wanted to check that out then as well, that is on our website. So I think that was mostly everything there from me in terms of content. I didn't realise I would speak for so long, but I'm more than happy then to answer any questions or anything maybe that you felt wasn't covered.
Thanks so much, Aisling. While people are getting their thoughts ready to drop some questions into the chat function, or even to unmute their mic and put the questions through, there are I suppose we had mentioned at one stage around placements as well, Aisling, and maybe giving us some insight into placements both in the sciences and in the engineering field.
Yes, certainly. So within the science area, so the one thing with us, and to be transparent, we offer student placements, but they're 12-month placements. So I know I've had a few sort of direct queries from students before, maybe where they were looking maybe for a 3-month or 6-month placement. As sort of you may have seen there from Chelsea, it does take around a year, you know, for both the analyst and the department, I suppose, to get you know, direct sort of value out of that. So because there's so much training, and that's why we have offered our placements as a 12-month placement within the science area, because they would only be sort of getting their head around what is involved, and then they would be leaving, you know, and it wouldn't sort of, we don't want it, we want to do our placement, we want to do them right, you know, where the students are also getting value. So that's the short answer on the QC side. So the engineering side, because it is slightly different, and yes, there are regulations and stuff. Everything that we do is regulated because we're pharmaceuticals, of course, but you know, there's arguably less, you know, for them, like they're not having to learn how to perform, you know, a piece of analysis, for example. So we are going to offer our 6-month placements, 3 to 6 month placements within engineering. So we are just working on the advert in the background because we haven't done an engineering placement in quite a couple of years. So we want to make sure that we have that up to date. So that will be coming online within the next couple of days. So I will share that, you know, with DkIT as well, so that can be maybe, you know, communicated out to students if anybody was interested in joining us for an engineering placement as well.
Yeah, just when we were in contact in advance of this, I did mention that to you, so I know there may be some people tuning in around those placements. So thanks for the clarity on that. In terms of, I hear and understand the compliance side of things from the science end and the year-long placements, which may be of interest to students who are maybe doing their level 7 and maybe before they go back to do a level 8 add-on degree. That may be something that they would be interested in. So just to bear that in mind for those students. Summer internships were something you did look at in the past, Aisling. Is that something that is at all open to students from the sciences end or from the engineering end?
Probably more for this year because we haven't ran our placements now in a couple of years just with COVID.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
On cue.
If I was on Zoom, I would know where the mute button is. So sorry, I've lost my train of thought there. So yes, I say we haven't done our placements now in a couple of years, just with COVID. So we want to do them right, as I say. So we don't want to bring students in and give them a poor experience. So it's something that we would hope maybe next year to do the summer placements. And say we are bringing in a co-student placements for the 12-month placement now coming from around end of May, start of June. So that would be, as if engineering is slightly different. So yes, we were happy, you know, to sort of where we can accommodate, you know, with that, then we're happy to. But you know, at any stage, you know, if you wanted to share, you know, my email at all, you know, that the students can contact directly, you know, with any questions, because it may be a different depending on the department and what we have, you know, going
Sure.
on.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely be in contact around that, because that would be, I know, a big area of interest for students across the different disciplines. Aisling, a question has come in from one of our students, an international student, in terms of supporting level 8 graduates, so honours degree graduates, within your site. This is particularly from an engineering and mechanical engineering student. So can you give us any insight into any international students and maybe the visa or sponsorship elements that you support?
Yes, so again, it is a case-by-case basis. So to be totally honest, with the visas and sponsorships and things like that, there's a lot of red tape, you know, for us to go through. But we're happy to consider, you know, that on a case-by-case sort of basis. So depending on the role and depending on you know, what the requirements are and things like that. So that's maybe something then that wouldn't be my level. That would be my manager, you know, that would sort of take care of that aspect. So I say happy to sort of chat around that, maybe if someone wanted to get in contact, you know, and we
contact directly. So you're encouraging application, and then it can be considered on a case-by-case basis after that. Okay. Okay, and just, I suppose, being honest in maybe your cover letter around the fact that you are an international student. Within the Republic of Ireland, there is the level 8, so there is the graduate scheme for honours students who are able to stay within Ireland for a year, and that might work maybe with the Monaghan site, but I'm not too sure what way it would work with the Newry site.
Because Brexit has kind of you know, thrown a spanner in the works for us in that respect. So you know, you would need to have either, you know, if there's any European, they would need to have the settled status, you know, and stuff like that. So I said that's a bigger conversation that we could talk for hours about. So the there's a whole conversation around that, where you the right to work in the UK, because we are technically UK company, you know.
Yes.
And as I said, Monaghan arguably slightly different, you know, because that is based, you know, within the Republic of Ireland. So as I say, that's why we need to sort of have a look, you know, especially around that to see where people are, what sort of rights to work they have, you know.
Okay. So I suppose in a summary, make the application and then it can be considered then on a case by case.
Don't write us off, reach out to us and we could, you know, have a look at that. And every person's circumstances are going to be slightly different. So
that's great. Aisling, you gave a very useful run through on the different departments and the difference in the science roles and the engineering roles. In terms of application, a question has come in around the application process itself. Can you give guidance on the steps to take around that?
yes, so depends on the role. You're probably thinking she sounds like a politician, this girl. I keep saying everything depends, but the reason I'm saying that is so that the roles that I would take, for example, so the analytical chemist, that would have an assessment, because, you know, I suppose everybody could tell us in an interview, yes, I know how to work out, you know, an equation, but we need to sort of just do a short 20-30 minute written assessment that will be on site, and then we would follow up then with a Zoom interview. So we're still continuing on with our Zoom interviews. Other roles may be slightly different, so it would just be, you know, the application and then a Zoom interview. So as I said, there are assessments for the analytical chemist roles.
Okay, so where the need arises in terms of the technical or clinical skills,
yes,
there will be that type of interview or that type of assessment, as well as a formal interview process.
Yeah, you know, although we do try and move quickly. So, you know, last week we had people who submitted applications. They came on site maybe the next day, done their assessment. We're quite open, you know, because we don't have to set them a particular time. So it's really anywhere between 9 and 5. Someone just says, yes, I can come in Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Okay, you've passed your assessment. We can interview you as early as the Wednesday, you know, and people have their offers then by the Thursday. So, you know, we do try and move quickly on things. So we appreciate that, you know, people are busy and, you know, they have, you know, it's a candidate market at the moment. So, you know, we try and move quickly. We don't try and make people jump through any unnecessary hoops.
Okay, perfect. So with that in mind, I suppose the process of the interview, can you give us an insight? Is it a competency-based interview? Are there any sort of tips or guidance that you would like to prepare in advance?
So again, depends on the role in terms of the actual content of the questions, but a word of advice would be to look at the likes of you understanding GMP. So GMP is bread and butter for all of our roles. So whether that be a production operative, a packaging operative, an analyst, an engineering grad, and a health and safety place, everything, you know, every single role is touched by GMP. So expect a question around that. I'm not going to give you the whole rundown on GMP. We could be here for hours, but as I say, it's typically just a couple of questions from HR, typical standard interview questions. For the analytical chemist role, then, for example, it would be knowledge around that area. So, you know, we don't interrogate people too much. It's just general, you know, what have you got experience with? What would you do in certain situations? That type of thing. So, you know, nothing overly technical, but as they obviously if we were hiring for a QC manager or for something more, you know, that required that hands-on experience, that would be slightly different. But, you know, we have an appreciation that graduates aren't going to have years and years of experience, so it's quite straightforward. Nothing to worry about. As I say, the engineering questions I couldn't directly answer because I don't deal with that side of recruitment, but again, I would imagine it's just quite straightforward questions around what would be involved with the role. So a good tip for me would be, you know, read through the job advert, because everything on the job advert is what you would be doing, so expect questions, you know, around that.
Okay, perfect. So good advice there in relation to look at the job spec in advance, obviously, and check your own experiences from the classroom or from project-based assignments, those types of things, against the type of role that you'll be carrying out.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we appreciate, especially with COVID and people not being able to get on site maybe to their classes, you know, their practical classes, that they're not going to come to us with oh yes, I can do this and this, you know, because as I say, everything is trained within Norbrook, but obviously we have to have a certain starting level where people will have a good base knowledge, you know, that we can build on. Obviously we can't be teaching people then absolutely everything, you know, if they haven't maybe picked it up by now, you know, if they haven't picked it up by the time they're coming, you know, through their degree course, then, you know, we're not training people from complete scratch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, perfect. So in terms of applications and opportunities, they are advertised year-round basis. There isn't a particular graduate program that people need to submit applications by.
So if you were looking at, you know, and I'm assuming maybe that the majority of people watching this would be, you know, sort of final year students ready for applying for full-time permanent roles. Yes, no, on our website would be, and as I did say, a lot of our roles they have quite maybe specific job titles, so don't be afraid to pick up the phone, you know, and ask to speak to someone in HR and just ask for a little bit more information, because as I say, I know working within the pharma world, we can have our own language sometimes, you know, so an analytical chemist, for example, like that's a QC analyst is another way of putting that, you know, so it could be called different things. So just on our website, and there's an application form for every role. So if you just click through, there's a job information page which will tell you, which will open up the job advert, or the job advert and specification, and then another page then to follow through for the application. So the application doesn't need to be submitted, you know, at the one time. You can leave it and it saves, you know, and you can log back in and, you know, complete it later. So there will be the closing date advised on it. Once the role closes, then we can't open it, you know, so if you've missed it, but there will be reminder emails, you know, that pop up, you know, to say you have an incomplete application form, just to prompt people if they want to submit it through.
Okay, so the application form, a structured process is via the website, and it is an application form basis. And do you include a CV as part of that, Aisling?
Not necessarily. So we have the application form in place of a CV, but you know, if anybody is on the website and they don't necessarily see a role there that is jumping out at them as in, oh yes, that's the role I want, that's the role for me, you know, don't be afraid to send us an email with your CV and say, you know, a little bit of information helps us, you know, in saying, okay, I'm interested in working in QC, or I'm interested in working in engineering, or you know, and attach the CV there. It may be that, you know, our analyst role might have closed the day before and they haven't seen it, but we might not have shortlisted at that stage. We could include the CV, you know, at that point. So it's always worth you, if you don't see anything directly, send through an email with the CVs.
Perfect. Aisling, are you happy for me to share your email address on the chat function, or is there a particular email address you'd like me to use?
No, my email is fine. As I say, if so I don't deal with the engineering side. So if anybody is interested in the engineering, I'll pass it on then to my colleague Sheena, and she can be more up to speed with what they're doing, you know, on the engineering side. So can hold a conversation on the quality side, but the engineering side just goes over my head. So if it's not me, I'll pass it on then to the relevant person in the team.
So information
will be matched. Any emails, you can just share mine.
Perfect, thanks very much. Just on that application form, for those of us who are not familiar with it, there's standard questions in terms of experience. Anything particular in terms of competencies, or is it more about experience?
No, so, well, there will be criteria for each role, you know, so for example, for the analyst role, it would be educated to degree level in a science related discipline. Please demonstrate how you meet this criteria. So there would just be like a little text box where someone can type in, I have a level 7 pharmaceutical science, you know, and that's fine. That's all they really have to say. The next one would be flexibility around, you know, shift patterns, although it's not as detrimental as with COVID. We were doing shifts, but now we are just 9 to 5, back to 9 to 5. And then ability to work on own initiative, you know, and just how they demonstrate that.
So examples around that.
You know, so it's like we don't need, there's 250 word limit on it. We're not expecting essays, you know, in that, because we're sort of just skimming through and say, yeah, pharmaceuticals, you know, or it would help if someone in that instance, say if they have, you know, due to complete their exams, they would write their, you know, I am completing my exams due to graduate in June, or, you know, something like that. So previously, in my time with the company, we would have needed the graduate to have the piece of paper in their hand with their degree classification and everything. Now we're a little bit more flexible, where if they are, you know, just finishing up exams, we can start the process at this stage, and, you know, make a conditional offer kind of on the basis that they still need to complete their degree. You know, we don't specify that it has to be a particular level or anything like that, or they have to have a particular grade. It's just that they've completed the degree. So as I say, if anybody was, you know, in final year now, there are people applying, and there are people with offers out. So we are happy to sort of start that process. Obviously, if you're maybe graduating, not until, I'm not sure, there are, you know, there are likes of master's students within Queen's and Belfast aren't graduating until September. We would kind of say, okay, you're a little bit early now, you touch base with us closer to the time of your graduation. So my point there is that you don't need to have your actual paper, you know, degree in your hand. And when I started, you did, but as they would sort of soft that a little bit for your final year students and start applying now.
Great. Well, you've heard it in terms of the application process and the detail that you provided there, Aisling. Thank you for that. I've dropped your direct email into the chat box so anybody there can access that and go onto the Norbrook website as well as Careers Connect, dkit.careersconnect.ie, and where we advertise and you, Aisling, post up the opportunities as they arise. Watch this space in terms of placement information that's going to be coming over the coming weeks, I would say, Aisling, and then as summer internships grow, we'll also be advertising those. So is there anything else you'd like to add on that, Aisling?
No, I suppose just to say the summer placement will probably be next year.
Next year.
I think we're in a position at the moment, and we don't want to bring people in, as I say, and have them, because we're already starting our placements this year, so we don't want it to become too many people and we're not giving people the attention that they need. I think that would do more damage than, you know, than good. Might put people off chemistry or the science side and go, no, I'm never going there, or I want to drop out. So I said that would be looking at next year. Our placements, I say, are 12 months, with the exception of the engineering, which will be coming through. It's on my list. I actually thought about it last night. So I didn't do that yet. So the engineering will be coming on probably within the next week, 2 weeks max. Will be.
Perfect. Great. Aisling, thank you for sharing all that information. Thanks for everybody for their participation today. And we hope that we'll see more DkIT graduates with Norbrook in the future. Yes. Thanks for everything, Aisling.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you now.